exactly what made the avoidant come back. Let's talk about something most people don't understand. What actually makes the avoidant come back? You see, when someone pulls away, especially someone with an avoidant attachment style, we immediately want to chase. We send a text, we ask, was it something I said? We start trying to prove we're worth staying for. But here's the secret most people miss. You don't make the avoidant come back by chasing them. You make them come back by letting go. When you stop trying to fix it, when you lean back and focus on your own value, they start to feel something they weren't expecting, the space to miss you. Avoidants don't respond to pressure. They respond to presence without pressure. When you're grounded in your self-worth, when you radiate peace instead of panic, you flip the script. They start to ask themselves, why am I still thinking about this person? Why am I the one feeling left behind now? That shift happens when you stop making them the center of the story and you start being the main character in your life again. And listen, not every avoidant deserves a second chance. But if they come back, it's because something about your energy told them, this person doesn't need me, but I want to be near them. That's the difference. That's the key. When someone with an avoidant attachment style pulls away, our instinct is often to chase. We reach out, we over-explain, we try to remind them how much we care. It's a natural response. We're trying to soothe the anxiety their distance creates. But the irony is that the more we chase, the more we reinforce the very behavior we want to stop. Chasing doesn't bring them closer, it pushes them further away. For someone avoidant, emotional pressure feels like a trap. Even if it comes from a place of love, it signals a loss of freedom, a demand for intimacy they aren't ready to give. That pressure becomes suffocating and they retreat deeper. What actually works is something most people find counterintuitive: stepping back. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you refuse to grip tightly onto someone who clearly needs space. It means you recognize that your value doesn't come from how much effort you can pour into convincing someone to stay. It comes from knowing that the right connection doesn't require force. When you stop chasing and start leaning into grounded detachment, you give that avoidant person what they subconsciously crave: room to breathe. But more importantly, you also give yourself what you need: clarity, self-respect, and peace. Grounded detachment is not passive. It's not the same as pretending to move on just to get a reaction. It's an active decision to remove your energy from a dynamic that's draining you. It's reclaiming your emotional power. And in that space, something important happens. The avoidant begins to feel the absence of your energy, not your neediness, not your pursuit, but your presence. That absence can be louder than any words you might have said. People often think that the avoidant comes back because they've had a sudden realization, and sometimes they do. But often what brings them back is that energetic shift. They no longer feel the push. The dynamic has changed. You're no longer reacting to their avoidance. You're just living. And in that calm, collected state, you become more attractive. Not because you're playing games, but because you've remembered your worth. You've stopped pushing for love and started allowing it to either meet you or move on. That kind of energy doesn't chase, and it doesn't need to. It draws people in naturally, especially the ones who didn't realize what they had until they no longer felt your pull. When you start prioritizing your self-worth, everything shifts, not just in how you feel about yourself, but in how others perceive you. There's a quiet confidence that radiates from someone who knows their value, and that energy is far more attractive than any words you could say or actions you could take to prove your worth to someone else. The avoidant in particular responds not to declarations of love or reassurances, but to the energy of someone who is self-contained. When you are centered in your own value, you no longer need external validation to feel secure, and that change creates a powerful magnetism. Many people try to hold on tighter when someone pulls away. They think that if they show just how committed, loyal, or understanding they are, the other person will finally feel safe enough to stay. But this often leads to over-summering, putting in more effort than the relationship deserves just to keep the connection alive. What actually makes someone want to return, especially someone avoidant, is seeing that you're thriving without them, that you're not sitting around waiting, but living. When your energy says, I'm good with or without you, it sends a message of emotional independence that feels safe and grounded. This doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you're no longer using the relationship as a measurement of your worth. You've re-centered yourself. You've started living in a way that honors your standards, your peace, and your emotional well-being. And from that place, you naturally create boundaries. Not as a punishment, but as a reflection of your self-respect. You're no longer reacting to someone's behavior to gain closeness. You're choosing what and who gets access to your life. The avoidant notices this. They may not say it outright, but they feel it. The energy of need is replaced by the energy of choice. You're not reaching out to be chosen, you're choosing yourself. That distinction is subtle but incredibly powerful, and paradoxically, that's what often shifts the dynamic. When you stop trying to manage their emotions and start managing your own alignment, you become a person they can't help but notice differently. Not because you're trying to trigger a response, but because you've stopped outsourcing your identity to the relationship. You've become someone with a life that is full, a presence that is peaceful, and a vibe that speaks louder than words. I know who I am, and I don't need you to validate it. Avoidants are often misunderstood. People assume they don't care, that they're cold or emotionally unavailable by choice. But most avoidant individuals deeply crave connection. They just fear the vulnerability it requires. When someone gets too close, it triggers discomfort. They worry about being overwhelmed, losing their independence, or being hurt, so they withdraw. Not because they don't feel, but because feeling too much, too fast, feels unsafe. That's why pressure, emotional demands, repeated check-ins, or trying to force clarity only drives them further away. What they respond to instead is presence without pressure. Presence without pressure means showing up in your full self without pushing for anything. It's the ability to hold space in a relationship without trying to control the outcome. When you're emotionally present, you're warm, open, and connected, but you're also grounded. You're not pushing for labels, timelines, or guarantees. You're not asking them to be different from who they are. You're simply showing up authentically and allowing them the space to do the same in their own time. That kind of emotional environment is what allows an avoidant to feel safe enough to come closer. This balance is delicate. It's not about pretending to be detached. It's about being genuinely okay whether they step forward or stay distant. You're available, but not over-invested. You're kind, but not over-accommodating. That steady, calm energy tells them, I'm here, but I'm not going to lose myself waiting for you. It removes the pressure they often associate with emotional intimacy and replaces it with a sense of choice. Most avoidants aren't used to that. They're used to people either chasing or giving ultimatums. But presence without pressure introduces something different, an invitation instead of a demand. And people always respond better to invitations when they realize they can move at their own pace without being judged or pulled too hard. Their guard starts to come down. They begin to feel safe. Not because someone is proving themselves relentlessly, but because they're being accepted as they are. This approach isn't just for their benefit. It protects you too. It helps you stay in your own energy rather than becoming consumed by trying to manage someone else's emotional state. It allows you to show up with love and boundaries at the same time. And that balance is exactly what opens the door for deeper connection, not just with the avoidant, but with anyone capable of real mutual intimacy. When you're caught in a dynamic with an avoidant partner, it can feel like your emotional energy is constantly being pulled towards solving a puzzle you didn't create. You start analyzing every word, every text, every moment of silence. You replay conversations in your head, trying to figure out what you could have done differently. This obsessive focus on fixing them, getting them to open up, commit, or just show up can become all-consuming. But the real transformation happens when you stop trying to fix them and start focusing on yourself. Trying to fix someone is rooted in the belief that if you just do everything right, they'll finally become who you need them to be. About that mindset keeps you stuck. It keeps you dancing around their wounds instead of healing your own. The truth is, you're not responsible for their fear of intimacy, their past, or their coping mechanisms. And the moment you stop trying to change their emotional behavior is the moment you begin to reclaim your own emotional freedom. This shift isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of control, of attachment to outcomes, of the idea that love has to be earned through effort. When you stop managing their emotions, you give yourself permission to honor your own. You start paying attention to what you need instead of what you think they want. You begin living in a way that supports your own emotional safety and inner peace. And ironically, that's often when the avoidant begins to take notice. Avoidants are used to people adapting to them. They expect the other person to do the emotional labor, to wait patiently, to prove themselves worthy of closeness. But when you stop doing that, it interrupts the pattern. Suddenly, you're no longer orbiting around their discomfort. You're standing still. You're grounded. And that stability, your refusal to twist yourself into someone you're not, can be deeply attractive to someone who's used to having all the power in the dynamic. They may not consciously realize it, but they feel the shift. Your detachment isn't cold, it's calm. They've stopped needing them to change so you can feel okay. And that's powerful because the most magnetic energy you can carry is peace with or without them. You're no longer trying to earn love, you're embodying it. And from that place, you don't chase, you don't convince, you simply become someone they feel safe coming back to because you're no longer trying to fix them. You've started choosing yourself. There's something profoundly powerful about knowing you can walk away. It's not about threatening to leave or using distance as a tactic to manipulate someone into staying. It's about genuinely recognizing that your peace, your dignity, and your emotional well-being matter more than holding on to someone who isn't showing up for you. When you're dealing with an avoidant, this mindset becomes even more crucial because if you're constantly signaling that you'll stay no matter how little they invest, there's no real motivation for them to shift. They remain in control and the imbalance continues. Knowing you can walk away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to stop accepting breadcrumbs. It's a quiet inner confidence that says, I love deeply, but I also have limits. That kind of strength is incredibly rare and incredibly attractive. People can feel it. They know when you're staying because you choose to, not because you have to. That difference in energy changes the entire dynamic. An avoidant often needs space to process their emotions. And during that time, they're subconsciously watching how you respond to their distance. Do you panic and chase? Do you over-explain, plead, or beg for connection? Or do you remain steady, composed, and clear about your own value? The moment they sense that your world doesn't fall apart without them, that you're not emotionally dependent on their presence, something shifts. They begin to wonder why you're not reacting like others have, why you're not clinging or compromising yourself just to keep the connection alive. Your ability to walk away reminds them that connection is a privilege, not a guarantee. It tells them that while you're open to love, you're not available for emotional inconsistency. That boundary becomes the mirror they rarely encounter, one that reflects back their behavior without drama or blame. It forces them to confront what they've been avoiding, that they could lose someone real. When you stay grounded in this energy, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also creating the only conditions under which a real relationship can thrive. Mutual respect, emotional responsibility, freedom to choose each other rather than need each other. And if they come back, it won't be because you begged. It'll be because they saw something in you that challenged them to grow. Your strength didn't come from holding on. It came from showing you were never afraid to let go. So if you're wondering what made the avoidant come back, it wasn't your texts. It wasn't your effort. It wasn't all the ways you tried to prove you were enough. It was the moment you stopped proving. It was when your energy shifted from please choose me to I choose myself. It was when you stopped chasing love and started embodying it. When you detached, not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself and for the kind of connection you truly want. Because here's the truth. The avoidant came back when they felt your absence not as punishment, but as power. The power of someone who knows their worth, who no longer negotiates it, who isn't afraid to love, but isn't afraid to let go either. That's what changes the game. Not manipulation, not silence, not strategy, but alignment, peace, self-respect. They came back because they saw the one thing that finally made them feel safe. You didn't need them. You were whole without them. And that kind of wholeness, that's magnetic. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the inner work, not just to get someone back, but to come back home to yourself. That's where everything begins. Take care of your heart, protect your peace, and remember, the strongest love you'll ever offer is the love you give yourself first. Until next time, stay grounded, stay powerful, and thank you for being here.